voters rated high gas prices as the #1 issue in the state. We have a two-part question that came from the public. First, what would you do about gas prices? And second, would you end the $172 million transfer from the Highway Trust Fund to the general fund?
Well, first off, there's been a lot of politicization of gas prices and gas. Gas is a raw product, it's like lumber, steel, whatever. The market determines the price of gas. The government cannot change the market. The free private enterprise system in the market has provided us with our standard of living. Gas prices in this state, the tax on gases in this state, have not gone up for over 3 years. We capped that gas price 3 years ago. The General Assembly and the leadership of the Republican caucus in the Senate pushed for that and made that happen, working with the Democrats. And that's one place where the Democrats did the right thing. We capped the tax on gases 3 years ago. So I think that's important. As far as the transfer of the $172 million out of the Highway Trust Fund, that was put in place under Governor Martin 20 years ago because it was needed, because the 1% tax on cars was transferred to the Highway Trust Fund. They capped it and said, any increase we won't put in the general fund, but the $172 million we will. Times have changed. We now have a surplus in the general fund. So there is no longer any need to make that $172 million transfer. I believe that all revenue and fees received from transportation-related goods and services should be used 100% to build roads and bridges.
Thank you, Senator. Judge Orr.
Well, I'm certainly in favor of moving the $172 million that now goes into the general fund back into the Highway Trust Fund where it should go and where it should be used for transportation needs. Also, the present governor has rated a number of other trust funds in addition to the Highway Trust Fund, separate and apart from that $172 million. I actually helped to argue a case at the Supreme Court a couple of years ago challenging the constitutionality of Governor Easley's raid from the Highway Trust Fund, and I was pleased that the Supreme Court ruled in our favor in that case. This is probably a dangerous thing to do in the context of a debate, and that is to say, I read this article, because you never know about how accurate it was, but there's very little the governor can actually do to lower gas prices. But there was a very interesting article that talked about how gasoline and oil products are being traded as any other commodity, like Fred says, and that a number of these huge funds are investing in oil prices, which are pushing them up. I think we need to see, Mr. Moore is always talking about what a great job he's doing with our pension fund here. I'd like to know whether, some of his investments are helping to drive up the price of oil and thus the price of gasoline. It's something we need to look at.
Thank you, Judge. Mayor?
Well, Governor Martin, who was one of our former county commission chairmen in our area, set up this fund, and he called it a trust fund for a reason. It was called trust. In other words, you shouldn't steal from it. And the state legislature and the governor have been stealing from it for years now to balance other parts of the budget. And then, lo and behold, at the end of the year, they go, we have a surplus. Well, you don't have a surplus when you steal from other funds. They also stole from the city of Asheville and the city of Hendersonville 2 years ago your utility franchise tax. The state was supposed to be collecting on your behalf the utility franchise tax for the cities and counties. And 2 years ago, the governor said, well, I'm not only going to collect it for you, I'm just not going to give it back to you. And he got away with it. And by the way, the state still owes this county money from the utility franchise tax. He's never paid the county commission for the money they stole, or your cities, Hendersonville or Asheville or any of the other cities in this area. So they've been stealing from a lot of funds at this point in time, and that is totally wrong. And as governor, when we say trust, we mean trust. By the way, another thing the governor can do is set up a statewide energy policy. One of the biggest problems we have right now in the nation and in the state is there is no energy policy, which is making us very dependent upon oil and gas. And we have two Democratic candidates who are against any new kinds of energy. They're against nuclear power. They just think lights turn on by accident. And it doesn't happen that way. We need a statewide energy plan.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Graham, you wouldn't have any thoughts on high gas prices, would you?
I want to take issue with what these guys are saying. Governor, you can do something about it, high gas prices. In fact, as a private citizen, you can do something about it. And we did. And having acted and taken the lead on this, we've saved the driving public of North Carolina over $180 million. Now, the governor didn't do that because he wanted to. The General Assembly certainly didn't do it because they just felt it out of the goodness of their heart. If you talk to that crowd, they would want to know where more money was going to come from, what was going to come from you. And I said after Hurricane Katrina, enough's enough. And they didn't do that because, as I said, it was goodness of their heart. We made them do it. Now, we've got an election cycle where people are down on our party and they're down on the process. Don't you believe it. This democracy is alive and well. And it's only as good as the energy you put into it. And I said enough was enough, and I took them to task, and I told them I was going to beat on them and beat on them and beat on them until they did something about it. And you're the beneficiary. So when you go fill up today, and you see that dial, it's just spinning and spinning and spinning, and those digital numbers going so fast you can't even read the number, think of Bill Grady. Because that effort that you helped me with is saving you money every time you fill up. Now, you don't think you can change the way things are if you're governor? Look what I did leading you, helping you when I was just a private citizen. Think what we could do together as governor. So this time we're all running for governor. I just happen to be the candidate. And thank you for that help.
Thank you, candidates.